Look up Trick Taker on Board Game Geek and you'll find 30 pages of games. Stonemaier Games just added to the genre with Origin Story. But what does it add to the trick-taking genre, and is it fun? I'm Dr. Brian McDonald. This is Brains on Games. Let's take a deeper look at Origin Story from Stonemaier Games. Origin Story is a light trick-taking game with the superhero theme that adds some engine-building elements. It's not too complicated, though, to understand. It's a game that you can play with between 1 and 5 players. At the 2-player count, they do add some dummy hands in the form of sidekicks, but it's a 1 to 5 player game. The box says folks age 14 and up can figure this one out, but I think 12-year-olds could get the gist, especially if they're familiar with other trick-takers, and games take only about 45 minutes to play. Each round in Origin Story, you're going to be adding powers to your player board, and then finally in round 5, you're going to reveal your superhero's identity. Those abilities will maybe allow you to manipulate tricks in some way. They might give you the power to avoid following suit, for example. They're going to earn you some victory points, and at the end of the 5th round, the player with the most victory points is going to be the winner. Origin Story is a must-follow trick-taking game, meaning that one player leads and plays a card into the trick. All other players have to play a card of the same suit if they can. There are 4 suits in the game. You've got speed, you've got brains, you've got strength, and finally you've got love. And love is the trump suit. Love trumps all in Origin Story. Players are going to start the game with a randomly assigned player board. So these are asymmetric. Each player has different kind of base powers that you'll have right from the start of the game, but the opposite side has, the same image on each one that has some pictures from some other Stonemaier games that you might recognize. Those boards will be dealt out, players will open those things up, and then you're going to get a choice of 2 superhero identities. So these are also dealt out randomly. So there's lots of randomness here at the beginning that might add to the replayability in the way that these powers combine with one another. But you'll have 2 of these cards. One side has the round structure, the turn structure that just reminds everyone of the rules. This is pretty much the whole rule set just on a single card, but the opposite side is your superhero identity, and you'll be choosing one of these at the beginning of round 5. Each round is going to be made up of 8 hands. So the dealer is handing out 8 cards to each player. But before you begin playing the tricks in the round, you've got to add your superhero powers. So you've already seen your hand before you choose what power you're going to activate for the round, and then you're going to place that on your player board. You have to spend stamina to be able to use that ability for the round. So before the round starts, you're also placing stamina on your powers. Remember, you're earning 1 more stamina and 1 more power each round of the game. And then the last thing that's going to happen before you play your first trick is that players secretly choose whether they're going to be a hero that round or the villain. And that dictates how you're going to earn those victory points. So the hero is going to earn 1 VP per trick that they win, but the villain wants to win 0 tricks, and they'll get 4 points if they don't win any. But if they get even 1, that's 0 points for them, unless they have some other way to earn points on their player board. Really, that's the game. You play through those hands, you earn your victory points. At the end of the round, you work out whatever end of round powers or abilities might activate. In round 3, there's also an event that's going to happen. There's this event deck that changes the rules for that round. The worst one I remember that we had was that moral crisis where we could not choose the same alignment as we did in the previous round. So if we were a hero previously, now we have to play as a villain during the moral crisis round. So round 3 has that special event, and then round 5 you're choosing one of 2 hero identities. And you've got this player board now that has your origin story with these events that have happened along the way through each round of the game. What skills, though, are you practicing when you play a game like Origin Story? Well, one of the things about these trick takers is that it is helpful if you remember what cards have been played. That's true for Origin Story too. So there is a memory component that you're practicing when you're playing these trick takers. More importantly, what you're thinking about here, I think, is probability. that element of quantitative reasoning where you're making some predictions. You're not bidding how many tricks you're going to win, but you do need to make some predictions right from the start of the round. Because if you're not going to win any tricks, you're going to want to be the villain so you can still get those 4 points. Are you going to be choosing abilities that will allow you just to do well in that round, or are you thinking ahead about how your engine is going to build up when you choose that power and add it to your player board? So there is that quantitative reasoning element where you're looking at the numbers and the suits in your hand and you're thinking about how likely is it that I'm going to win a lot of tricks or few tricks. I mean, I had a couple of games where my power was really suited to being a villain, but I kept getting dealt a whole bunch of high trump cards, and that meant that I was very likely to win hands. So it was hard for me to play as a villain because I kept getting the wrong cards. So you do need to think about how likely it is that you're going to win lots of tricks versus no tricks. Final thoughts about Origin Story. Well, this is a must-follow trick-taking game, and I do really like trick takers. Now, I have probably more than a dozen trick takers on my shelf. So does this add anything where I'm going to want to pull it out and play it again? That was the question at the beginning of the game. And I think that because we're adding here some engine building elements, that is, I like engine builders and I'm a comic book guy. So I like the theme. And as you're adding powers to your player board, it is thematic. You do feel like you're building up a character here that's going to hopefully earn you the points you need to win the game, but also you're creating this superhero. I think at the end, and maybe this is a downside, at the end it might be a little bit less thematic because you're choosing from only 2 of these superhero abilities, and maybe the powers that you've worked through the entire game to earn don't necessarily lend themselves well to the hero that you have at the end. In the box, there are 10 of these cards. It's a 5-player game. There's 10 of these cards, so you're going to get to see 5 of them when you're playing through. But that is a limitation. There's lots of variability because of the big power deck, and because of there's only one event that's going to come out per game. There's lots of variability and replayability there, but you are limited. There are 5-player boards. There are 10 of these cards. So I think we're lucky here that this is a Stonemaier game, because one of the things that I've learned about Stonemaier over the years is that they do support their games. So there's likely to be an expansion to this game that hopefully will add some new heroes, some new player boards, and some new twists. But even without that, this was a game, probably the first game in a while, where each player who came over to play this with me immediately was looking online to see, how do I get this game? So I was lucky enough to pre-order it and get one of those numbered copies, which is, I think, very lucky, because this is a really good game. Small box, trick-taking plus engine building plus superhero theme. Those things are all winners. Like I said, I wish there was a little bit more in that box, but I'm sure that there's more to come from Stonemaier. One of the things I remember seeing online, when I was excited when this game was announced, I was looking forward to seeing it and trying it and playing it. I ordered it like immediately when the pre-order code or the pre-order page opened up. I know that the artwork was divisive, I think, online. Some players liked it. Some people were posting that they didn't really enjoy this art. This wasn't their favorite Stonemaier artwork. I think it grew on me, honestly. I saw the box and I thought, okay, well, this is nice. I like the watercolor kind of style. I do really like the artwork on the event cards. I mean, there's not a lot going on here on the actual deck that you're playing with, but really these are the cards where you're just paying attention to the numbers. So that's not a big deal. The power cards and abilities that you're going to get, the backstory cards that you're adding to your board, these do have art that's a little bit more detailed, and it's certainly more varied. I like the artwork. I like the style here. And when you've got these point counters where you're changing a number on one side, it changes on the other, all the players thought that was a really good element to the game. I like the trick-taking games where you're bidding on the number of tricks that you're going to win, and that's not quite what's happening here, but you are deciding, are you a hero or a villain? Are you going to try and win lots of tricks or lose all the tricks? That's a fun aspect of the game too. So I'm really glad that they included that in Origin Story. It's a card game with multiple decks of cards, and so you might have bad luck. And that's a downside of maybe most card games, I would say. So you might not get the cards that you want or cards that are going to play into your character's abilities every single round. We never found that. The game is fun enough that that didn't bother us too much. I think really a couple of things that did come up that were kind of headaches was that the rules are very simple, but sometimes there'll be two cards that interact in a way that we had questions. Because the game is brand new, there's some forum threads that have some questions that are being answered by the folks over at Stonemaier, but it wasn't easy to find, okay, well, if I've got this card that says I play last in the round, but I have this card that says I play at the end of the round, who goes first? They do have tiebreakers where you go around the circle to the left of the dealer, but are you starting with the dealer? There are a few things that were a little bit unclear that gave us some pause, I guess, where we had to stop. Hang on a second, let's double check this and see if there's anything online about it. There are a couple of cards with wordings maybe that are a bit ambiguous, but look, this, like I said, everybody walked away from playing Origin Story saying, how do I get this game? I want a copy for myself. I mean, it's a small box. It's easy to bring this one out. You need to have room for the player boards, but really don't need too much more room than that. I'm not a guy who really prefers those dummy hands where you're playing at two players and you've got the sidekick, but in a superhero game, it's kind of fun to have a sidekick. So it's a little bit random how it's thematic how the sidekick operates. I didn't go into that too much, but that's one that you can discover if you play through the game. It's a game that I think I'm going to be pulling out again and again. This is another one that I might want to bring with me when I go to Ludicon next week in Montreal, so we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be packing a bunch of games to bring with me. But what a fantastic experience this was. I'm going to pull this out again and again. Everybody I know is going to want to play it. This was a good time. If you like trick takers or care about them in any way, if you like superhero games, this is a really good, quick playing, small box superhero game that was a lot of fun. So Stonemaier, like I said, you've created something that I think is special. If you have questions or comments, you can of course leave them in the comments section below the video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go, and the previous ones are already up there. Brains on Games is the X handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed and the Blue Sky page. We're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video, you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.